Hi, welcome to Psicurious. This episode is about lost time, and it'll be my story again since I've volunteered to go first to make it comfortable for others to talk about their stories. This story is not a typical lost time story because most lost time stories, I think, involve UFO or UAP encounters. Mine was just in broad daylight in a parking lot, but I lost the time between almost being run over by a car and waking up, standing up in front of my car quite a distance away. I'm going to put up a graphic to make it easier to explain. But to speak briefly about lost time, it is when you go into another state of consciousness or you go into a state of unconsciousness, or you go into a state where something happens and you're not permitted to recall that. Now, either your mind is blocking you from that data because it's just too upsetting, or your higher self has come in and said, look, this is unconventional, but it wasn't your time, so we need to pull you out of the situation so that you survive. And because there has been this otherworldly intervention, you can't retain this information in terms of your recall. But we do need to step in, intervene, change the situation, and make sure that you keep going because it's not your time. And that last version, I think, is pretty much what happened to me. I don't have any other lost time stories, and I surely have a lot of scary, dramatic, and traumatic stories, and I remember every second of them. So this one is an unusual one. I'm going to put up a graphic so that I don't spend a lot of time describing it. So I'll voice over this graphic. I'll just show it to you briefly. There was this great social norm at my university when you needed a parking space because parking was so deeply impacted. You'd come about 10 minutes before class let out, and you would pull over to the side of the parking lane, and when someone came out of class, you would offer them a ride to their car, and then you would get their space. And it was nice because people coming out of class didn't have to walk through the entire parking lot, and you were providing them a service and they were providing you their space. So I was pulled over one day, and the green car is me. And I'm waiting for someone to come out of class, and I'll pull up and offer them a ride in order to get their spot. And the red car, I'd only been pulled over for a few minutes, but the red car I see starts pulling out of its parking space. No reverse lights. And I look closely, and there's also no one in it. So this car is rolling out of its space because it's in neutral with no parking brake, and it's windy. So it's that kind of wind where it's just gently pushing this car, but it's starting to pick up a little bit of speed. And I didn't hesitate. I got out of my car and I ran over to that car and I put my weight behind it on that rear driver's side fender just to stop it from rolling. It wasn't going that fast. I've pushed cars before. A small car like that in particular, I figured I can stop this, push it back into space, get in and pull the parking brake. And I put my full weight into the back of that car, and I'm wearing leather bottomed shoes. I didn't think twice about it. And I slid with my full force. I slid right under the back of that car. So now I'm perpendicular to the back tires. And if you've ever pushed a car that's not running across blacktop, you can hear little pieces of grit as the rubber goes over it, clicking and making little scratching sounds. And I slid under that car so fast, and I turned my head to look, and the tire is right here coming towards my face. And the only sound I heard was the sound of the little grit on the road clicking and making those little tick noises. And I thought, this is how I die. Oh my God, it's so stupid. So all of that happened in a matter of seconds. I mean, the moment I put my weight on the car, I just slid like I was sliding into home at a baseball game. I was completely under the car. flat on my back with this tire rolling right at my head. The next thing I know, I'm standing in front of my car, directly in front of it, facing the hood, facing the windshield, and I hear crunch. And the sound of the crunch wakes me up like a hypnotist said, when I snap my fingers, you'll be wide awake. I was standing there like this, eyes closed, head down, completely balanced and center and completely still. And the sound of that car, the red car, hitting the car behind it, because it had rolled all the way across that lane and a half, 2 lanes, it's about 2 lanes wide. That car hitting the car behind it is what snapped me out of it. So I heard crunch and I picked my head up and I whipped around, because I don't know how I got here. Just as far as I know, the last thing I was going through was I was under that red car. I hear the crunch. I whip around in time to see the red car bounce off of the car that it just hit and hit it again. So it had picked up some speed. Boom, boom. And I freaked out. I just freaked out. I started crying. My blood pressure went from completely fine to through the roof. I didn't know how I'd gotten that distance. I didn't know how. I had grit all along my arm from the blacktop. I scuffed my shoes, clearly. I was dirty from where I had fallen, but I was uninjured. And I was yards and yards and yards. I was at least 3 car lengths away. I don't know how it happened. So the time between me looking up at the tread of that tire coming towards my face and me waking up in front of my car to the sound of it hitting the car behind it, I have no idea how I got there. I have no idea how long that time was, but it couldn't have been very long. I mean, how long does it take a car to back up from halfway into a lane all the way through the lane into the car behind it? I mean, seconds? So that's my lost time. Not much happened, but I have no idea how I got out from under that red car all the way back to being in front of my car in a completely, literally like being hypnotized. And I know that sounds corny, but it, like when you think of a hypnosis situation, okay, close your eyes and relax, and it was me. So that's my story about losing time. It's less than 30 seconds, but I don't know how I got there. I don't know how I got out from under that car. I have no recollection of anything. And at the time it was happening, it had all happened so fast that I wasn't really scared. I just remember having the thought, this is how I die. How stupid. And I know I'm going to get comments from people saying, why do you think you could stop a moving car? It wasn't like going 10 miles an hour. It was just rolling out of its parking space, and I thought I would just roll it back in. I didn't even hesitate because small car, neutral. Anyhow, I ended up helping campus police push it back into its space, put the parking brake on. They took a report because whoever was driving the red car left it wide open. Neutral, no parking brake, totally unlocked. It just blew into the car behind it. So I was fine when I calmed down, but I don't have an explanation. And so there's another story where I've just had to sort of have it with me and have it be real. And no matter how I tried to justify what had happened, no matter how I tried to use logic and rationale, well, I must have been so adrenalized that I blanked it out. It's like, no, I didn't have any grit on my hands. Like, if I'd scrambled up from underneath that car, I would have had, my knees would have been trashed. My shins would have been trashed. I would have had grit all over my hands. I didn't. The only grit I had was on the side I slid down on. Man, did I slide fast. Anyway, if you have a lost time story that you want to share with us, it probably won't be anything like this one, but oh, we'd love to hear it. So please leave a comment below or send us an email, and we'll give you a chance to tell your story because I bet it's pretty cool. So thank you again for joining us here at Sci Curious, and I hope we get to see you again soon.